Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another fabulous episode of The Today Show. Now, over the next couple of days, we will mix and match some of your favorite moments on the show so far. But before we do that, let me introduce you to the first set of guests this evening. Now, our guest, Mohammed Ali, is joining us today. He's working on this theatrical show called Waswasa for a few years now. It launches next week on August 25th. This is his biggest show to date. Excuse me, Soul City Arts brings you Waswasa, a Commonwealth Games commissioned, presented by Birmingham 2022 Festival that explores the physical act of Islamic prayer and how it's perceived in a modern secular society. It's an incredible walkthrough featuring a combination of art installation, live performance and projected film that disrupts the conventions of theatre, placing intimate audiences at the very heart of the story. It attempts to demystify a simple act of worship and find that elusive flow state. Now, it's going to be running at the Birmingham Hippodrome from the 25th of August to the 3rd of September. There's going to be 26 performances across 9 days, and timings are at 3, 6:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. Now, to talk to us a bit more about this, we've got a cracking lineup, so bear with me on this. We've got Mohammed Ali, of course, who is a multi-award-winning street artist and curator who has travelled the globe with his art for almost 2 decades now. He was making art at a time when Muslims and being creative as a profession was almost unheard of in this country. We're also joined by James Hodkinson, who is an academic from the University of Warwick. His research specialism is Islam in European history and culture. He works at connecting academia meaningfully with society through arts and outreach programs. We also have Anna Watkins, who is a choreographer, director and movement director who has toured the UK and internationally. We also have, I told you it's a phenomenal lineup, Hamza Ali, who is a London-based physical performer who has completed his MA in movement from the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. And if that wasn't enough, we've got another guest. We have Mustafa Chowdhury, who is an actor and performer who has trained at the Rose Bradford College and the National Youth Theatre. He had a leading role in the Amnesty Award-winning play Trojan Horse. Now, before I welcome everyone to the show, let's just take a quick look at what it is that we're going to be talking about today.
Waswasa, an immersive performance exploring the physical act of Muslim prayer in modern secular Britain. We attempt to demystify and explore the challenges and the struggles and the beauty of Muslim prayer in modern society through live performance, projected film and art installation at the Birmingham Hippodrome on August the 25th till September the 3rd. Tickets at birminghamhippodrome.com.
Amazing. Now, we're going to begin with Mohammed. I tell you, we've got an amazing lineup and there's some great event that's happening at the Waswasa event. Now, Mohammed, I want to start with you first. And now you've said that this is the biggest show you have ever done, or certainly the biggest show you've ever spent all this, the 20 years of work that you've been in. Tell us, why has this project been so important to you?
I think for me, doing something that is so sensitive, it's about prayer, it's about salah, it's something that's so personal, and actually telling this kind of epic story of what Muslim praying means in this society, I recognize the kind of responsibility that I have and these kind of heavyweight themes that we have, and are trying to dissect and tell the story of prayer to a broad audience on an incredible platform like the kind of Commonwealth Games platform. As this being part of the festival when Birmingham was alive with the games, and to be kind of a part of that and telling this epic story of what Muslim prayer means, I realized that this is something big and probably won't get anything bigger. Exploring and dissecting Muslim prayer, it's a huge responsibility that we have, and we've been very delicate, very careful, being supported by a major masjid as well, to kind of make sure that it's as authentic and it's true and honest as possible, and ensuring that we kind of represent the story beautifully and brilliantly.
No, inshallah. Now, of course, you've described this as Muslim prayer meets Blade Runner 2049. I love that. I've never heard that expression before. So in a nutshell, what can we expect to see from this immersive experience?
Sure. I mean, I think it's too often we see expressions or visualizations of prayer can often be done in a very cliche form, right? It just takes a Google search of Islamic prayer and you do a Google image search, and what you'll see is the same old visual depictions of kind of corny images of people holding their hands up, etc., etc. And actually, what I wanted to do was kind of really take it into a different realm where depictions of prayer and Muslim prayer can kind of almost be on par, if you like, with kind of visualizations. And that's why I described the Blade Runner movie aesthetic. Things that can be cinematic, things that can be extraordinarily beautiful, right? And presenting in a form that's not been seen before, because dissecting and demystifying of Muslim prayer, kind of, we all are attempting that. We'll see many a kind of interfaith outreach program or community awareness days to the mosque. You know, everybody's striving to tell the story differently. And I suppose that's kind of what we're doing as an artist, as a visual artist primarily. We just thought, how do we kind of cut above everything and just try to make something that really stands out? And I think that visual aesthetic of that kind of epicness of cinema and the way it looks and the way it's lit, people will walk into the theatre and you will be immersed. You will see video projections, you will see an art installation that you have to walk through. Then you'll see our brilliant actors performing this really deep kind of performance, physical theatre. So at one point they might be praying Salah, and then that will kind of blend into, you know, physical movement where they're kind of moving and engaging with the space.
No, absolutely. Now, of course, you know, a lot of work is going in the background to put this together, and I'd like to bring in Anna at this point, if I may. Nana, you've been working alongside Mohammed in shaping this, essentially shaping the movement of the show. Tell us, what has that process been like? How have you found that?
Yeah, hi. Firstly, it's just been an absolute honour to be welcomed into this process, and it's been nice to exchange honest ideas and honest context, so that, as Mohammed said earlier, so that the being authentic is still true, but reaching a point to guide each other to get the best outcome of this, so that other people maybe who are not in the Muslim community can learn from this, can be invited into this. So it's just been an absolute privilege to share this experience with everybody, and Hamza and Mustafa, incredible actors to work with as well.
Amazing. And we of course got Hamza and Mustafa here. Let's come to Hamza first. Now, you know, I guess we're both, Hamza and Mustafa, you're both established actors and movement performers. You've worked in theatre, you've worked in TV. But what has it been like working on this project, on Waswasa? So let's go to Hamza first.
Yeah, I mean, this project that Mohammed's put together and the team, it's been so unique because it's Muslim-led. It's made by Muslims about Islam, and the space it's taking up in the theatre industry is a space that has kind of laid dormant for so long. And I think this is kind of our way of putting our stamp on the UK theatre scene and saying, you know, we're here and we're here to stay, and you know, this is how to tell the story. This is us. This is a genuine, real, honest depiction of what Islam means to, you know, Muslims in Britain.
No, absolutely. And you know, we're seeing a gradual rise or increase in Muslim actors, Muslim performers. You know, even our very own Atif Nawaz, who used to be here on this set, is now, mashallah, a stand-up comedian who's been presenting on the cricket commentary, I suppose. So is this a great thing? And do you guys take inspiration from this, seeing a lot of Muslim artists now in, you know, the kind of the theatrical world, so to speak? Let's come to Mustafa.
Yeah, I think definitely it's always an inspiration to see other Muslim kind of creators and performers, you know, out there in the industry working, and also kind of being able to convey, you know, how important their faith is to them and is to the work they do. And I think for us, particularly as performers, this project was really significant in the sense that, you know, it's centered around Islamic prayer, it's centered around Salah, and like, you know, I've had times where, you know, I've been at drama school and I've been training during the month of Ramadan, and it's trying to work out how to balance that. And I think these types of projects and performances are really vital in terms of kind of educating the general public as to how, you know, how we function as Muslim creators and how important our faith is in our work.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Mustafa. And of course, there's a great team behind the scenes who've put this all together. But of course, one of the kind of great institutions, and James, you're here with us today. This, of course, has been supported by the University of Warwick. It's been supported by University of Birmingham and the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. Of course, some heavyweight educational institutions who are supporting this. Why are the universities involved in this? What's the vision there, I guess?
Well, look, let's be honest. Universities are often seen as rather remote, kind of elitist institutions. And I think
Should we get a glass of water?
Yeah,
we will arrange a glass of water.
And I think what's really important for universities is that they're shown to engage their research and take it off campus and take it out to wider communities. And that's really what we've been doing. In all of this. The University of Warwick's come in with a large pot of money to help fund the project, and it's been able to do that by helping to fund hospitality, really, helping to hire the space, helping to bring people into the space, and it's that really that's formed the basis of our prayer mat workshops, because our prayer mat workshops are really at the heart of this. You've heard about all of the amazing, thank you, you've heard about all of the amazing things that were happening, the film that's happened, the dance, the movement, the mime, all of the things that have been part of the performance. But part of this is also an installation. You've heard the word installation used several times. Now, the installation is made up of prayer mats. We've been creating effectively replica prayer mats over the last few months, where we've been inscribing the du'as of ordinary Muslims in Birmingham from the community and bringing them all around to our workshop. And creating these, and these will be hung on set. So people actually going through a beautiful labyrinth created in the form of Islamic architecture, where they're able to see these prayer mats. Thinking about it, if you're a Muslim, you want to see what other Muslims are praying about, maybe. If you're a non-Muslim, you also want to be educated about what it is Muslims are thinking and feeling when they're praying. Now, that's really what's at the heart of it, putting those community voices in the middle of the installation. So alongside this spectacle is also the experience of everyday Muslims. Universities are really trying very hard at the moment to try and extend their reach, extend the reach of their research to support this kind of community-led arts and community-led research, and that's really what we've been doing.
Amazing. And I love this because we're talking about this off air as well. Please do have your water.
Thank
Sorry. I think that always happens is something goes in the bottom of your throat. That always happens. I hope you're feeling better now, James. Now, I love this idea of the collecting of du'as. And of course, we said, on the prayer mat, and then the message goes on kind of a constructed mat, I suppose. Were there any interesting prayers that caught your eye as you were reading through this?
Well, they're incredible. I mean, we started off, people were saying, in many ways, quite conventional things, or writing conventional things. Ya Allah, give us world peace, or Ya Allah, grant paradise to my grandmother who's passed, right? So these are things that you might expect. But also everyday things like, you know, Ya Allah, give us plenty of mango ice cream. Or quite serious political things on the other end of the spectrum. You know, please Allah protect Palestine. Or please, you know, Allah protect women from toxic masculinity. So really quite strong messages. So this is the point, I think, it's the whole spectrum of possibilities there from one end to the other, from things which seem so everyday and ordinary, right the way through to things which seem profound. And I guess that's really what we want people to see. Muslim people pray for all kinds of things just like anybody else. And we want to invite them inside that process.
No, absolutely. That's great to see, of course, the universities involved with this. But of course, the show's also part of the Birmingham 2022 Festival and the Commonwealth Games. And maybe I'll come back to you, Mohammed, for this. How did that come about? Because obviously we've all been watching the Commonwealth Games. It's just been on our screens. But it's great to have such wide-ranging support, and from, like I say, one from universities and some well-respected universities there, but also from, like I say, Birmingham 2020 Festival and the Commonwealth Games.
I think this goes back to that point you mentioned about, entering certain places and actors and being in the theatre space. I mean, my vision always with the work that I do has always been, listen, very simple, go big or go home, right? We must and absolutely must come outside of the bubbles that often sometimes we reside in and actually kind of go out work, whether it's comedy, acting, film, theatre. We really must kind of be on those platforms that kind of burst outside of it. Sometimes we can be sitting quite comfortably in our little kind of comfort zones. So embracing and actually recognizing that these platforms, like these global conventions, like the Commonwealth Games, which is in my home city of Birmingham, right? It absolutely was a no-brainer for me that having, I was wanting to do Waswasa for many years, in fact. And I don't know, it didn't matter who and where and how. I just knew that this was a concept was born about 20 years ago. I've been thinking, how do I tell that story of prayer and take it to the masses? And then the Commonwealth Games came along, and you know, at the end of the day, you have a compelling idea, and you can execute it brilliantly with a brilliant team. You know what? These things, people will get up and support. And if we deliver things in a cowboy fashion and cutting corners, and we don't do things with passion, people won't fund and people won't support such initiatives. For me, it's passion is everything, yeah. And if we do things brilliantly, and as we as Muslims should be striving for brilliance, doing things beautifully and brilliantly, then you know what? We can absolutely enter those mainstream spaces that we should be taking over.
No, absolutely. Because we've seen a lot of that with yourself, with your art. And of course, a lot of our viewers who are probably tuning in thinking, hold on, we know Muhammad Ali, but he's the graffiti artist. And you know, you're well renowned for that. We see a lot of that, you know, featured on the TV. So that transition from, you know, I suppose it's not a transition per se, because you're still doing the graffiti, you know, great creative work that you do on that side. But was it easy or difficult kind of moving from one kind of skill set to another, from, you know, the artist, you know, displaying that imagery on a wall to bringing a concept to life, and it's a performance now. So what was that transition like for you?
I mean, I think any artist will evolve, right? And if we kind of stay in our ruts and we just do kind of one specific thing, for me, it was quite natural. You know, the spray can is my chosen tool, of course, and taking an ugly public space and bringing some color into people's lives, but telling a story. Ultimately, I was a storyteller. When I paint a painting, or when I take the camera and film like we have for this show, or whether we're scripting the story, we are storytelling. We are telling our stories and taking it to people who perhaps haven't heard these stories. And really, for me, that's a skill that's transferable, right? If you're in visuals, I mean, I myself had a gaming background about 20 or so years ago. I used to work in the games industry. Yeah, I was responsible for turning kids into zombies. And I used to be my skill was really quite multi-sensory anyway, because I was designing the graphics. I was the sound that you hear as you enter the game. And what I was responsible for was a young child being immersed in sounds, in visuals, and even the joypad in your hand vibrating. And really, I'm just applying that skill. I'm kind of going back to a skill I'd acquired many, many years ago. And instead of turning kids into zombies with these kind of immersive skills of sight, sound, touch, smell, and really just kind of applying that to the art that I do now. And I think for me, if you can immerse the viewer, right, through all of these different disciplines, I tell you what, it's a lesson for anybody. You have people eating out of the palm of your hands if you can kind of completely immerse them.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to bring in Anna on this point again, if I may, because when I think of the prayer, there's a set movement to that, right? There's almost like a ritualistic movement that we have to do during that prayer. So when you're kind of designing this experience, how as a creative person, is it a case of you try and just replica that, or would you say, look, I want to try and move away, can I change it? How much creative space or creative freedom did you have in that, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, well, I entered the space with a very kind of open mind, in the sense of, this is me coming into something I'm not as known to me.
Yeah.
So I very much was listening to Mohammed in the sense of what's key, what's important, what's authentic. So we kind of each time were having a conversation, meeting in the middle, so that I knew how far can I go one way, and is that too far? And we would play with the movement and see. I mean, the prayer is so beautiful. There's so much detail already in the body language of the prayer. Yes. Something that really inspired me and intrigued me as a background for myself as a mover. But yeah, I feel like it was, yes, of course, there's restrictions within it, but it was positive restrictions.
Right.
Because we're constantly communicating on what this means and the importance of what this is. So it's more the case of us working alongside each other to meet that place and to collaborate and to find that. And as well with Hamza and Mustafa, to find that place with them as well as actors.
And how easy, and you can be honest with us, I know they're there, but be honest, how easy or difficult were they to work? Because you know what these actors are like. So were they easy? Were they difficult? What were they really like?
They're absolutely amazing. They're most humble people, and I think that's been the best thing about this experience is it's really humbling. And I mean, that for anybody is a gift to work with people like that. So yeah, they've been incredible. There haven't been any trouble at all.
I'm sure they'll pay you later for that. I'm sure they will. But let's come to our talent here, because Hamza and Mustafa as well. Now, I know one of the elements of this this whole experience is to help people connect spiritually. And see the beauty of the prayer, that connection with God in all the movements that we're doing. As you were performing and as you were, this was all coming to light, did you find that yourself from a personal experience? Because of course you're in the thick of it, right? You guys are acting and you're going through all the experience yourself. So did that help you in any, or did you feel that spiritual connection as you were doing that? Let's go to Hamza first.
Yeah, I think a large topic in the show and a large theme is all about finding flow and finding focus. And I think that's the real connection between what we do as performers and Islam as a religion and as a practice. It's all about discipline. And when you're there, when we're at rehearsals and we're in this world where these two things have come together, it's, I'm performing and I'm feeling that. I'm really feeling that spiritual connection and finding that flow and finding that state where, yeah, I'm connecting with the audience, but I feel like I'm also connecting with something higher than that.
Amazing. And what about for yourself, Mustafa?
Similarly to what Hamza said, I think faith is a journey that we kind of go on individually, and we all have our own kind of like personal journey with our faith. And I think this show is really interesting in terms of immersing ourselves with regards to Salah and how that links to our faith, because there's a big element of grief that comes in the show. And there's a big idea, and it's something that I've discussed with friends before, this idea that when you suffer from grief, when there's a loss in the family, for example, that's something that brings yourself closer to your faith and, brings you back to your salah. So for me, I think that was definitely something that kind of resonated with kind of personal experiences and experiences that friends of mine have gone through. And I think definitely in the show, it really shows.
Absolutely. And how does it feel for you? Obviously, you're much accomplished actors, both of you in your own rights, and you've been through the kind of the university and the Royal Academies in terms of perfecting the art. Did you ever feel, having done this, that this would be something you'd ever do as an actor? Because I guess I can't think of an example of any form of medium where we have this kind of performance to do with the prayer or something which is so deep and spiritual. So did you ever imagine you'd find yourself doing this as actors? Let's go, Mustafa. We'll carry on with you.
It's something interesting. It's something that I did think about because, for example, when you're training at a drama school, one thing that you work on in terms of a skill set is your vocal capability and your vocal ability. And the thought that I've always had is, when you look at the imams during Tarawih prayers, for example, they're stood up there for an hour, 2 hours reciting. They need to be able to handle that vocally. Yes. And there's a lot of parallels with that and kind of how you would prep for a 1.5 hour play, for example. And that's stuff that I've had to do. So it's been really interesting in terms of kind of meshing the two together for this. I've had to prep for, aspects of the performance where there might be Quranic recitation, but then also that I had to prep for kind of aspects where I'll just be delivering lines. So there is a lot more crossover than you realize. But again, it's not something that I ever anticipated being able to do. It's just naturally kind of my background has helped support and supplement my kind of the process for this show.
And as you say that, I've heard that you guys also have been receiving tajweed training for this as well. So Hamza, how did you find the tajweed training? Is that something that you feel I'm going to benefit from this from a very long time to come?
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. Like when it was first introduced in rehearsals, it was initially just about the performance. And I was like, okay, this is something I need to really perfect for the performance. But then once it began, and similar to what Mustafa was saying, once we're learning about breath control and about mouth shapes and certain sounds, and these sounds that are so alien to someone who's not encountered something like that, it's definitely a skill that I think I'll carry on into the future, into the rest of my work.
No, inshallah. And talking of tajweed, there's something interesting I've come across today, which is the famous Birmingham Quran. What is that, James? So basically it says as part of the show, you have reproduced the famous, I didn't know there was a famous Birmingham Quran.
Well, first of all, what is the Birmingham Quran?
Yes.
Well, they're basically fragments of Quran that was actually two surahs. So the Surah Al-Khaf and the Surah Taha, which were found. It's believed that they're written on animal parchments. Believed that they were produced probably in the 2 decades after the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So they're that old. They were collected in the first half of the 20th century as part of the Cadbury collection, and they're held in the Cadbury Library at the University of Birmingham. But it's only the fact that they're there and they've been so carefully curated that means that they've survived to this day. Right, they're very, very fragile materials, so we can't obviously use the originals in the show, but precisely because people want to see them, beautifully crafted reproductions have been made of these fragments, and they're actually being loaned to us as part of the show. So this is something which is very visceral, it's very, you can't touch, obviously, but it's a real physical fragment that connects us back to the time of the Prophet. And it also carries a powerful message. You read the surahs and they're virtually, well, they are indeed texts and fragments written in Hijazi script, which are unchanged to this day. The modern standardized Quran is the same. So it's an incredible connection back. And it's also a Birmingham fragment as well. So it's part of Birmingham's local culture as well. So it seemed, it was almost a no-brainer really to see if we could get this as part of the show. Imagine this, the show as something that you can walk through, you can see a performance, but you can also go and contemplate these fragments of the Quran, which are local, they're Birmingham, but also they're universal, therefore it's all.
That's remarkable. I think that's new for me. Certainly for a lot
One
of
of some of the oldest actual scriptural fragments of the Quran in the world, if not the oldest, right? So literally from the decades after the death of the Prophet, how old is that? It's incredible thought, right? That's held in Birmingham. And this is, you know, the next best thing, distinguishable with a naked eye from the originals. You can go and see that. And if one day the Cadbury Library shows the originals again, maybe people, Muslims who come and see the show will be inspired to actually go and see the real thing as well.
Wow, amazing. I think that's inspiration enough just to go to the show. Now, of course, a lot of people don't know this, but this was filmed not just here in well, I say here in Birmingham, I suppose, but you've been to New York, Melbourne, Cape Town, Kuala Lumpur, and Toronto, and all filmed during the pandemic.
Yeah, well, I wish I had actually been to all those locations. We couldn't, of course, because it was during the pandemic. At the time, I was based in Melbourne in Australia on a year of study leave, and Mohammed and I were still connected and working on this. And we decided it was time to try and get some more brothers together from across the world, really. And we put out the call, I think it was via WhatsApp, to friends we knew who could recite, because there is one of the other pilot films we put together for this project is called The Global Call. It's effectively the Adhan being recited in different iconic locations all around the world, right? So they all recited the whole thing. We spliced this together and it becomes a kind of a whirl of voices reciting the Adhan, which is, of course, this very powerful message, a call to prayer, quite literally. And it's been something we've been using in our workshops. It's going to be part of the show as well. And also there's something significant about those locations, because Waswasa is something we don't want it to just stop in Birmingham. We want it to move. Right, this is going to have a legacy, this project. Hopefully, we think one of the first places it will arrive is in Melbourne, where we have considerable contacts. So the idea would be that we would go there, we would collect, of course, the du'as of the local community there. We're not just taking Birmingham du'as there. The whole concept is that we always work with local people, with local communities. So we take the seed of the concept, we plant it elsewhere, and watch it grow into subtly different forms wherever it takes root. So hopefully, you know, inshallah, we'll be having this, you know, this amazing theatrical experience in Melbourne and maybe other places as well in the years to come.
Absolutely. Now, as you were talking about the call to prayer in all the different places, I know there's a wonderful video we have with the Birmingham Mosque, and I believe our very own Muhammad was up on the minaret. So let's take a look at that and show our viewers exactly what we're talking about, inshallah.
We are consumed by our chaotic world. Swimming, floating, drowning. It's hard to keep our heads above water, to ponder on purpose. How do we attain that ultimate focus with all the distractions we experience? Waswasa, we call them in Arabic. Whilst we strive to achieve that flow state or being in the zone, maybe through sport or yoga, we all try to find that space in order to create our best, to perform our best. But there's whispers in our ear that distract us, those distractions. pull us away from seeking that space. There's these 5 daily prayers that are misunderstood by the masses. Prostrating onto the floor, head to the ground, a total act of submission, to empty oneself of ego. So in this age of distraction, a simple act of worship can become a revolutionary act. But how easy is it to achieve that state? To demystify the Muslim prayer, a necessary thing in today's world, it's time to deconstruct the lies, to step into each other's lives. Don't listen to the waswasa that keeps us from asking those difficult questions.
I love that video. It's absolutely right. It's time to deconstruct the waswasa and get a better understanding of the prayer. I urge everyone, of course, to attend. I want to thank all of our guests, James, Anna, Hamza, Mustafa and Mohammed. But before we go, Mohammed, before you go, I know you're still there with us, tell us, how can people find out more? How do we buy tickets? And where exactly is this taking place?
Yes, so it takes place at the Birmingham Hippodrome in the city of Birmingham, the centre of Birmingham. And it starts this Thursday, August the 25th, and it runs for 9 days, right? So you can get tickets at birminghamhippodrome.com. And there's 3 showings a day. It's quite intimate. Tickets are likely to sell out quite fast because there's 50 people at a time are going in to see these performances. And I tell you what, I can't express enough really that, you know what, the Muslims of Britain really, they need to see something which is quite unprecedented here. A major theatre in the city of Birmingham, right, doing something so kind of pertinent and something that so resonates with the Muslim community. And I just say, look, spread the word, because before you know it, it'll be gone. It's only 9 days, starting from this Thursday. So birminghamhippodrome.com to get your website, to get the tickets, or you could just go into Google and type in Waswasa, the show or something. Otherwise, you'll get lots of shaitan images probably.
No, I was going to say, just doing Waswasa by itself, you probably get a whole thing about Surah Nas, I guess. But do find out about... Look, thank you to all of our guests, to James, to Anna, to Hamza, to Mustafa, and to you, Mohammed. All, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us today. Amazing initiative, folks. Amazing. So amazing. We dedicated the whole show to it. That's how good we thought it was. So please do go to that. Again, the Hippodrome, this Thursday, I believe it kicks off. Well, that's all that we have time for, unfortunately, on today's show. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Do go to the show as well, inshallah. And join us again tomorrow for more, inshallah. And we will see you then. Oh, no, in fact, it hasn't finished. I beg your pardon. We're going for a break. See how excited I got there? We're going for a break. See you in a bit, inshallah.